This is America's Mayor Live. And here we are, the night before the 80th anniversary of one of the most important battles in world history. And that would be, of course, the storming of Normandy 80 years ago tomorrow. I was 8 days old when it happened. So obviously I didn't participate. I almost wish I did. Of course, I talked to participants. Maybe the most interesting you would find would be the baseball catcher Yogi Berra, and I'll tell you his story tomorrow, which he only told very rarely and only really when he was pushed to say it. Many of the World War II veterans, including my two uncles, both of whom had harrowing experiences in the Second World War, were very reluctant to talk about it. It was like I'm not exactly sure I know what that demonstrated. Certainly a humility about it, and almost it was a sacred subject in a way. A subject you just didn't talk about. It wasn't because they were covering up some untoward incident or it was just they didn't talk about it. As they got older, in case of both uncles, one lived a lot longer than the other. They became more open, as did Yogi, about talking about it. So tomorrow we will on both shows, and then we'll also do tomorrow and put on America's Mayor Confidential. We'll put on a commentary on it with some observations that I have from people that I know, and also from my two visits to Normandy, which both of which were experiences that I will never ever forget, nor will you if you go, which I urge you to do whenever you get the chance. Well, the Hunter Biden case is moving along to a quick end. Let me just make an observation about that. I have a worry about this case, and let me share it with you. If I try to treat it for a moment like a case that I would have had as a U.S. attorney, and one of my assistants are trying the case, and I would never have let a person continue with a case like Weiss, who tried to throw the case. Now, let's not beat around the bush. We don't have time. He tried to throw the case. The plea offer that he made to him was corrupt. He basically was no jail, no record, no nothing for everything, including the 31 million from China and the 3.5 million from Russia and the 8 million from Ukraine, and then various pieces of change from Romania and Kazakhstan, adding up to another 2-3 million. So we got about a $40 million bundle on which he's going to pay no taxes, and they're taking him forward on a couple $1 million tax case. Doesn't make sense, right? Well, that's because he turned down the plea, and the others, they very, very deliberately let the statute of limitations run. And Hunter is in the golden circle of protected people. They doesn't get prosecuted for things that you and I get prosecuted for. So they didn't extend the statute of limitations for him, even though what he did, it makes what Trump did like Trump just stepped out over the line while he was walking across a red light compared to this guy. So this is a bit of a setup trial. And to try it in 2-3 days, when you consider all of the irrelevant prejudicial evidence they put in against Trump, there are 40 days of irrelevant prejudicial evidence you could put in about Hunter Biden. I'm exaggerating. How about 2 weeks? And it would be considerably more relevant to what he's charged with than the incidents with Stormy Daniels in a bookkeeping case. Remember, it's not a case about sexual harassment like the Harvey Weinstein case. It was a case about bookkeeping, and they brought in all that stuff with, what kind of underwear did he have? Here, all of this testimony would be relevant to, is he a drug addict? Because I don't know if they're deliberately allowing the defense to do this or not, but there are two ways you violate that statute. One is if you deny being a drug user, and they're arguing the drug user means ridiculously that day. I'm sure the judge will charge the jury. She's so indicated that that is not what it means. It means being a drug user at or about that time. Well, since he has proof that he did it the next day, that's about as close as you're going to get. But number two, it says addict or drug user. Well, he's an addict. Do you know how much proof there is on the hard drive that he's an addict? Now, they did put some in with the a salesman today, and also from his book and elsewhere. But there's so much of that in a way, if the jury were to see, I'm going to try to get this as accurate as I can from my memory, because I don't like to go back and look at that crap. There must be 40 pictures within that time frame of him completely gone on crack in a way that's beyond such thing as a normal crack user, normal, meaning massive amounts of smoke around him. Him laying down with his sister-in-law and practicing foot sex and then it's hard to see it, thank God, because there's so much crack smoke around from the two of them. This is absolutely true. He took he got a prostitute, paid her to give him a manual or a documentary, I don't know what you want to call it, but an instruction manual on how to do foot sex. He put it up, completely no clothes on, but you don't actually realize there are no clothes on because it's so smoky. And then he gives her instruction on how to do foot sex. And they're both completely gone on crack. Completely gone. And when you get through these, which should have been looked at, not for salacious purposes, but on the relevant situation, he's not just an addict. He's what I would call a degenerate drug addict. He can't stop using drugs, even when his father breaks the law as the vice president to get him into the Navy because he's too old. And he's supposed to have a special skill. You know what a special skill was? Public relations. That's just what we need. More public relations people in the Navy. If we don't have any more, we're going to be beaten by China. They'll have more public relations people than us. And, we need Hunter to win the war for us. And within weeks, he embarrasses the hell out of his father by failing a drug test, which means he is a degenerate drug addict. He has no control over it at all, not even intermittent control like a lot of drug addicts do. So I would have put a lot of emphasis on that word addict in the statute because there's so much proof that he's an addict. And they're going to put in some, but 10%. And some of the worst things aren't there. Because the other thing you want to prove is, particularly since they're putting in this very sympathetic defense, that he's not a sympathetic drug addict, if there is such a thing. Here's why he's not a sympathetic drug addict. The pictures of him driving an automobile while smoking large amounts of crack is not sympathetic. It's deadly. It shows an utter disregard for human life, doesn't it? And when he's not smoking it, he knows what he's doing. So he has times to reflect on the fact that he's putting every kid in that neighborhood in jeopardy while he's driving that thing with a crack pipe in his damn mouth, producing all kinds of circles of smoke around him. That is an unbelievably irresponsible action. It's also unbelievably irresponsible that he's using this crack and walking around nude and messing around with all these prostitutes in loud conversations on the phone and fights in a home with two minor children who in fact adore him and are all over him. I mean, that should be a crime in and of it. It is, I think. It's probably child abuse. And it sure as heck stretches over into child pornography. In fact, the second agent that went to visit John Mac Isaacs, the FBI knew this, was from their sex crime unit. because they were examining it for sex crime. They didn't have the guts to bring it. Didn't have the guts to try to save the kid. Well, I want to see that proven. What happened today? Lowell is in many ways the worst kind of lawyer for him, because this guy is a big liar and Lowell's a big liar, and between the two of them it becomes ridiculous. So first he wants to make it that in order to violate the statute, you have to be using drugs on the day that you bought the gun. Well, that's, of course, ridiculous. The thing that they're trying to protect against is a drug user or addict walking around with a gun, just like they want to protect against him driving a car with smoking dope. The sympathy moves away from him, and the sympathy moves toward the innocent victim or the kids that he's harming. And second, Lowell has tried to make it seem like this gun seller, forced a gun on him. Here, take the gun, Hunter. I'm a big salesman. And he got the guy to talk about what a good salesman. And then, big question, which maybe he should have known the answer to: you make anything extra for selling that gun? No, he just got paid straight salary. So he had no extra motive to sell that gun to Hunter any more than any other gun. It wasn't all that expensive a gun Cleveland said he got paid the same salary no matter what his customers bought, and insisted that Hunter Biden was the one who selected the item he purchased. And he said he saw Hunter watched him fill out the form, including answering that question. Somehow they're creating the impression somebody maybe filled that in for him. Boy. And then his girlfriend, Zoe Keston, testified. But she said that she met him in a strip club in New York, that they were with each other on a very, very constant, intense basis for a period of time in 2017 to 2018. 2018 is the relevant year. And that he was constantly using crack. And when he got into it, he was taking it every 20 minutes, like a obsessively compulsive drug addict, big one. Not, you're a teeny drug addict, a little marijuana. No. Big crack. She said he didn't show much effect from it. He seemed to be just as nice a guy as he was when he didn't have it. Now, the ex-wife was a little different. The ex-wife testified that she didn't know he was a drug addict. She first, of course, became suspicious when he was, as she should have, and therefore there's a little question as to her testimony. She became suspicious when he got tossed out of the Navy, within weeks, for failing a crack test. And then she started discovering drug paraphernalia, a crack pipe, this, that, and the other. And then she realized he was an addict, and she got very worried. And she would go out to the car constantly, and she'd find drug paraphernalia, and she'd pull it out of the car so the kids wouldn't be in the car. So he was a danger to his own kids, not just the kids of his sister-in-law mistress. So she was constantly going in the car and pulling things out. She does say she never saw him smoke crack. Who cares, one way or the other? She said he definitely did, and he had a terrible problem with it. And contrary to the girlfriend, she says there was a big change of personality. He became nasty, he became mean, he became difficult when he was on crack. Often, not all the time. There were times he could sustain being with people and faking it and basically hiding it. And there were times that he couldn't. And she said their marriage broke up over his crack use. And she did admit that he was also an alcoholic, because somehow they were also going to say that during that period of time, he was really an alcoholic. Now, all of this is kind of crazy, and it's meant to confuse the jury and lead to something called jury nullification, which Professor Turley has a good article in the Post about, because it doesn't really matter if he's an alcoholic. You don't get away with buying a gun, carrying it around if you're a drug addict, if you're also an alcoholic. It's not like a defense. In fact, it makes it just worse, right? I don't feel too comfortable about the people that are smashed drunk carrying guns either. Do you? She did say he's also an alcoholic, but he definitely is a drug addict, and that was part of the reason that their marriage fell apart. I would imagine it was also, if you look at that hard drive, I mean, I can't count the number of prostitutes that are there, and then his morbid interest in little girls, which I'm sure she knew. It was hard to not, it would be hard to know him and not realize that. If you look at the full context of photographs in his photographic thing of 1,000 photographs of women in salacious or sexy or whatever you want to call it, a lot of them were underage. One of the people who analyzed it for me thought there were more underage than of age, but I don't know if that's true. But there are a lot, and it's scary and it's creepy. I would describe his assortment of pornography as creepy because of the young girls. Biden did say to Zoe Keston that he would always be an addict, which is very relevant to the language on the form, since it says addict. He told her, "I'll always be an addict." He told her that he uses alcohols or Narcotics Anonymous because of his addiction, and he also, they testified that he made it clear that he never thought he'd really get over it. During the purchase, he was very aware of what he was buying. He knew what he wanted. He used cash as the method of transaction, the same way that Biden and Obama paid off the Ayatollah. That's interesting, isn't it? In cash. And the way drug dealers do business, and the way he did business when he bought drugs. They had a discussion about having a speed loader and ammo. They discussed different types of ammunition, which is better for self-defense, which is better for more aggressive purposes. And Cleveland, the Gordon Cleveland, the witness, says he saw Biden make out the form. No one helped him with it. No one urged him to do it. And the form reads, "Are you an unlawful user of or addicted to marijuana or any depressant, stimulant, narcotic drug, or any other controlled substance?" Okay. It doesn't say, "Are you an unlawful user of just today?" User of suggests over a period of time, more than one day. Abby Lowell wants you to think it's one day. And it then has the second category, "Are you an addict?" Well, as I said, they produced a plethora of evidence that he is an addict. Admitted. He even has a T-shirt describing himself as an addict. Maybe he was proud of it. I don't know. So let's take a short break, and when we come back, we'll talk about the two women, and then give you an idea of when this thing is going to conclude. Delivers on its promise to do good and never forget the sacrifices America's greatest heroes have made for us. Heroes who risked their lives to keep our communities and our country safe. Heroes like United States Marine Corps Captain and pilot John Jeremy Sachs. Captain Sachs sustained fatal injuries when his military aircraft crashed during training, killing him and 5 other service members. He's remembered by loved ones as courageous, brilliant, and devoted to his career, family, and friends. John is survived by his wife, Amber, who gave birth to their second daughter 3 months after his death. Tunnel to Towers paid the mortgage on the family home for Amber and their 2 daughters. The foundation has helped over 1,000 military and first responder families navigate the worst of times by removing the burden of a mortgage payment. Our nation's heroes and their families need your help now more than ever. Donate $11 a month to Tunnel to Towers at T2T.org. T2T.org. That's T, the number 2T.org. T2T.org. Please donate now. Well, the testimony of we're doing sort of in reverse order. Gordon Cleveland was the salesman who they were trying to lay it on. That he sort of entrapped him, and he said that isn't true. The guy was very knowledgeable, asked questions, was going to buy a different gun at first. What was it? Is there a gun called a Rutger? Ruger. A Ruger. He was going to buy a Ruger first, and then he decided on the one that he actually purchased, and that he filled out the form on his own carefully. He saw him do it. He ultimately chose a Colt revolver, a 38, I believe, and he had no special reason to sell it to him. He didn't get a special discount, a special commission, a special bonus, or anything else. That they had a fairly not detailed, but I got a bit of a detailed conversation about the categories of ammunition and the full metal jacket bullets, which are better for usage on shooting range, and hollow bullets, which are better for self-defense. He explained those usages to Hunter, and Hunter selected the hollow point bullets, which are better for self-defense, which may give you some indication of why he was buying it. Remember, he was going in and out constantly dealing with these drug dealers. These were all different levels of drug dealers. I mean, I'm sure some of them are guys that would kill you. This could be the reason he bought the gun. They discussed a speed loader. They discussed ammunition. The prosecution focused on a statement from Biden that he would always be an addict. And that was a conversation that in one of the texts to Zoe Keston, he writes, quote, "I can be sober, but I'll always be an addict. And the addict is as much me as the me you love to hate." Now, that's relevant because, remember, one of the things he denies is being an addict. So they put in quite a few references from the hard drive, not all of them, by the way. For some reason, there are a lot more that I remember of his talking about being an addict, because at times he was very maudlin about it, and at times he was kind of proud that he was an addict for some strange reason. Don't ask me to explain the psychology of addicts. I don't understand it. Zoe Keston testified that she saw him smoking at the times that he did it, which would often in their relationship. He was a compulsive smoker, chain smoker. He would basically do crack every 20 minutes for a period of time. They met in a strip club. They had an intense, relatively short relationship. She was in his big house with him, stayed with him for a bit. She produced a photograph of them in the bathtub smoking crack together. The prosecutor put out some other evidence and pictures of him smoking crack. She was asked, did he ever say that he wasn't an addict? And she said no. They showed a May 2018 photo of the room, and the room had half-empty bottles of liquor, baking soda, which he used with cocaine to make crack, residue on a bowl he used to heat up the mixture, and chopsticks he used with his crack pipe. She said she was quite angry. She had to clean up the room, and it was filled with drug paraphernalia because he had had a big stretch. The first stepmother was there for most of this testimony. It's before she left. Then there was also a photo of him with a parody shirt describing him as addicted. And also that one saying that he smoked weed, which the girlfriend said it was strange because he didn't, but he did use crack constantly. Also, his ex-wife testified. As I said, her testimony was somewhat different. She said that, unlike Keston, that he showed definite deterioration of his personality when he used drugs, that he would become nasty, he'd become short-tempered, he'd become unable to concentrate, a lot, but not all the time. There were times in which he could pull it off and act rather the same, I guess. The wife claims she never saw him use crack or drugs. I guess I have a healthy skepticism of that. She did say she knew for certain that he was, because after he was thrown out of the military, one day she found a crack pipe and some other paraphernalia in the house. She then became much more aware of it and started finding it all the time. She then found it in the automobile, which concerned her even more, as it should the jury, because every time he drives that damn thing under the influence, he's going around, getting close to attempted murder, right? And he would drive the kids in the car. So she would clean the car out constantly of his drug paraphernalia, and he was constantly replenishing it, putting it back in. Please understand that these are minor children she's trying to protect, and of course, if you believe her, right, he lured her into becoming an addict herself, and she had a problem with it. But seemed to be able to maintain a little bit more distance, so that she could think about and worry about the children. Although I do come away with it with a little bit of a how come she never saw him using it, because he used it so often. She did acknowledge that in the therapy session that they went to, the marriage therapy session, he acknowledged that he was an addict. Again, important, because that's the thing he denied on the form under oath, and that's a federal crime. She first became aware that he was using it on July 2015, when she found a crack pipe in an ashtray, and he acknowledged to her that he was smoking crack. They were married from 93 to 2017. She did not have an immunity agreement. They also put in the invoices and the bank records, and then large amounts of cash that he was taking out of the bank at that period of time, in the thousands and thousands of dollars. And Abby Lowell asked a question he didn't know the answer to and got socked in the mouth. And thank you, Abby, because another bit of vindication for me, Bob Costello, and all of us who you defamed as being somehow Russian operatives. Did you find out whether any of the files had been tampered with? And the FBI agent said, no, none of them have been tampered with. Screw you, Abby. You know none of them have been tampered with. So that's about as good I mean, there's more to it than that. We'll say that kind of summarizes it. The prosecution is supposed to wrap up tomorrow. They say they have more. I thought I saw in one of these they have more sex witnesses. I wish they had described it a different way, but we'll have to see what they mean about it. Maybe, I mean, there are a large selection of people they could call that he had crack with, including paid prostitutes, girlfriends, and friends of friends, and wives of friends, and some surprising, I mean, it depends on how much discretion they're going to use. Depends on how much discretion they're going to use in what they do, and as Professor Turley said, are they setting up a hometown jury nullification? Means, in essence, although the law makes it clear that a person is guilty, a jury feels that the application of the law is too strict, and therefore it shouldn't be applied in this case, which is why proving that he is not, let's say, a benign drug addict, he's only a danger to himself, is necessary here to overcome that. At least that's what I would do. I would show this guy's an aggressive addict who is a danger to other people. Apropos of that, when you come back, I'm going to show you the one thing they don't have the courage to use, or they don't have the decency and honesty to use, because they are partially throwing this case, I believe. We'll see. If this comes in evidence, I'll change my mind. You come right back. We'll go on to that, and then we will move on to, one incredible lie after another about our national security from the president. We'll move on to that one. We'll be right back. And if I put my name on something, I truly believe in it. Today, I'm thrilled to introduce you to something I'm incredibly proud of. My own brand of organic specialty coffee, Rudy Coffee. Believe me when I say it's the best coffee you'll ever try. It's smooth, rich, chocolatey, and gentle on your stomach. It's so good, I even recommend drinking it black. It comes in 3 varieties, including what I promise is the best decaf you'll ever have. You can order now by scanning the QR code on your screen or by visiting rudy.coffee. By supporting Rudy Coffee, you're not just treating yourself to exceptional coffee, you're also supporting our cause, the cause of truth, justice, and American democracy. You'll also be supporting the Call to Action nonprofit, which is devoted to helping veterans and first responders, so you can make a difference and taste the difference by ordering today at rudy.coffee. Welcome back to the disgusting story of the Biden family. It ended today with the prosecution saying they thought they would conclude tomorrow. So I believe there'll be we do believe there'll be a defense. Of course, you're never told, and you shouldn't, by the defense, whether they're going to call the defendant. I think there's a good chance they will call Hunter if they are building toward a jury nullification defense. That usually works when the defendant himself is very sympathetic. And I can't tell, not being in the courtroom, how this is playing out. This testimony could play out either way, depending on how it's given, how it's received, how the lawyers act. It has elements in it in which you become somewhat sympathetic with him. And then there are elements in it in which you become really angry at him for endangering people, endangering the public. Now, I think if they put this piece of evidence in, they would seal the deal. Because it would show how deeply damaging, probably irreparably damaging his conduct was. And that with all of the drug addiction and even alcoholism, he had enough of awareness to know the damage he was doing. This is a conversation in 2018, not a conversation, a text or email to his father in the form, really, I would say, of a confession. Constantly avoided, never put out. I don't know who they think they're protecting except Joe Biden with this. Notice they keep out anything that connects to Joe Biden. During the investigation, Weiss, who I think is a crooked prosecutor, Weiss's number 2 lady told him, don't ask any questions about the big guy, don't ask any questions about Biden, cut off any questions about Biden, da-da-da-da-da-da. Well, this one goes right to Biden. This is Hunter to his father. And now if you take a look at it, Ted, shall we put it up? Yeah. And it says she, that's his niece. He's talking about underage female. She told my therapist that I was sexually inappropriate with her. That's a pretty big statement, huh? To avoid and not to put in evidence. when she says that I FaceTime naked with her. 1415, she says I FaceTime naked with her. We call that, for purposes of everyone else, but the exempt and golden circle Biden family, child pornography. And we punish it very, very severely because it's despicable. Except for Democrats in California that lowered the punishment for pedophilia. You explain to me why or how, and you'll get some understanding of the morbidity and the criminality of the current leadership of the Democrat Party, particularly in California. Well, she told my therapist that I was sexually inappropriate with her when she says that I FaceTime naked with her, and the reason I can't have her out to see me is because I'll walk around naked, smoking crack. I'll walk around naked, smoking crack. Talking tom girls. I don't get that. I believe that means talking to prostitutes on FaceTime. Now, I will tell you, they can, to corroborate that, produce more than a few photos and videos of him doing that in the house with the minor children. They can also produce many, many photos of a massive amount of smoke rising to the upper floors in the house with the minor children. When she was pressed, she said that she never said anything like that. But the bottom line is, and this is where he displays a certain amount of guilt, right? Which kind of takes you back to the fact that she was telling the truth. I create and caused a very unsafe environment for the kids. Now, you're a grandfather, let's say. Your son just told you he creates an unsafe environment for your grandchildren, and you don't do a damn thing about it. What kind of a piece of shit are you? That's the president of the United States. That's why they're not going to put it in, because they're doing everything they can to cover him up and let Hunter take the rap. He was going to his father in a certain way for help, wasn't he? I'm not a psychiatrist, but I do know a little about psychology, and this is about as much as a pervert like this is going to cry out for help. And here's the response to it. It's the same help he gave him way back when he found out he was an addict, but he used him as an in-between guy and bag man with some of the most dangerous criminals in the world. What do you think you're going to do to a young drug addict if you put him into work with a Ukrainian, Russian organized crime oligarch who's suspected of murder? What do you think you're going to do to him? You're going to make him into a degenerate drug addict, aren't you? I know people in the mafia, or new people in the mafia, that care about their children more than you do, grandfather of Navy. I know people far less important than you, and people maybe, well, see, I consider the mafia people of kind of equal criminality to you. And they committed murder, but I remember the scene when Michael says to Kate, when Kate says, well, you know, governors and senators and presidents don't commit murder. And Michael says, you're the one that's being naive now. Well, this guy commits murder. Would anybody of those people that were killed in Ukraine be dead if Trump were the president? No, because Putin would not have invaded. Now, that is not speculation. Conduct proves that. He invaded 3 times with Bush, with the traitor Prince Obama, and with Stumblebum Biden. But he didn't when he had a strong president, because he may be an evil man, and he may be a difficult man, and he may be whatever you want to call him. but he's practical. And you can work with him the way you had to work with Stalin and the way you had to work with other people in order to defeat Hitler. The problem with Stalin is that unlike Churchill, he fell in love with him. Roosevelt fell in love with him. And maybe because he was surrounded by communists who kept telling him nice things about Joe, who wiped out as many, if not more people than Hitler. Now, the Chinese have wiped out more than both. So don't show this. And there's plenty more, too, that links to Joe. You know they're caving in for Joe. Now, as long as I'm showing you this, there's a companion piece to it. That is similarly kept from you. How many times have you heard the left-wing liars say, there's no evidence that Joe got any money? Hey, guys, how often have you heard that? You hear it all the time. Today, probably. Even on Fox and Newsmax, you'll hear people regretfully say, because they would like to have evidence, there's no evidence that unfortunately, there's no evidence that he received money. What I'm going to show you there, you see that piece of paper? That piece of paper is worth gold to a trial lawyer and prosecutor. Now, there's a name for that under the rules of evidence. May I brag a little? I had my law school classmate here today. He visited me. We met the first day of law school. I won the Amjur Award for evidence when I was in law school. Meant I had the highest grade in the NYU class on evidence. Also did on constitutional law. And I did because I had the damn rules memorized. And even today, he was kind of fooling around because I'm 80 and we were teasing, have I been, and he's already 80. And we were both admiring how much better we are than Biden. But I mean, that wasn't fair because Biden is like completely gone. Now, this is an admission. This is about the strongest proof that you will have, short of seeing the money go into the bank account. And it's admissible, and it would be enough to convict him. It's admissible as a hearsay rule exception called an admission. And it's admissible against him and an alleged co-conspirator. That would be his father. And it explains the obvious. Now, you can read it. I've read it a few times to you, and I do it because it's hidden from you. And even people that listen to my show regularly, I will ask them sometimes when I meet with them about this, and they don't remember it. So I intend to keep repeating it so you go around telling people. I'd also like to see if you take a screenshot of it and hand it out to people. And if you call me, I'll send you a couple of these that you can give out to people. I'll screenshot it for you and send it to you. So basically, it says two things there that are really the most relevant. One is that this has been going on for 30 years. That's what makes it a RICO enterprise. And the stupid thing they're doing in Atlanta, which may be going away now, and Arizona isn't, because it only lasted for a couple of weeks. RICO enterprise, by and large, is a business. It goes on for a long period of time. So he says that he's been doing this for 30 years, and for 30 years he's been doing two things that gets the money to the boss of the crime family. One, he pays all the expenses. That's as good as giving him cash, right? You buy his house, you pay his rent, you pay his gasoline, you fix the windows, and all throughout the hard drive or computer, there are many examples of this in-between guy, Eric Schwerin, who Joe appoints to keep track of Hunter wasting his money, Joe's money. Look, this answers the question also, why would these very crooked, wealthy people give this money to Hunter Biden? What can he do for them? Nothing. What can Joe Biden do for them? Everything. Like fix the Burisma case, like make sure they get pieces of very large contracts, make sure they're protected, just having them around in case you need some edge. Just having Hunter around doesn't get you anything, having his pop around. The product of the Biden crime family that made it a multi-million-dollar enterprise was Joe Biden's influence and his willingness to use it for corrupt purposes. And this explains a very important piece of it, the flow of the money, in which he says that for 30 years, he's had to give half of his salary to his father, which means the father gets more than half because the father gets all his expenses free. Hunter buys the houses. Hunter pays for the tuition for Ashley. Hunter, you will see on the hard drive, is paying for storm windows, new doors. Jill looks like she could be, stepmother in chief in the sense that she treats him like, and he says it, treats him like crap. She's being very nice now in the front row for the, doing the thing you're supposed to do if you're the wife of an organized crime family boss, which he is. Not organized crime, obviously. Well, maybe political organized crime. I think the Democratic Party could the upper regions, you have the Clinton family, you got this family. And maybe if this ever opened up, you'd find out there are other families too. At least that's what I'm told by the Ukrainians who were disgusted with this. They say, Giuliani, you know why they're trying to kill you? I said, why? He said, well, in fact, we're surprised they haven't. Because if this opens up, it's a lot bigger than just the Bidens. We're not saying everybody, but we're saying a lot of people. Not as many, but some on your side too. And, there, all I have, and therefore I won't engage in it, all I have is speculation. I mean, I have obviously a much better idea of who those people are than you do, but not with the precision that you'd want to have to throw their names out. And probably some may be wrong, and I'm probably missing some that didn't come up because I kept my concentration on, putting this together in order to defend Trump. That was my goal here, to show that what they falsely claimed and paid $1 million to falsely create in Russia, they were actually doing in Ukraine. And not just Biden, but with Soros and Hillary. That was my mission, and I accomplished it brilliantly, for which I was repaid by being labeled as a Russian pawn, had my law practice taken away from me, and have lost about 2/3 of my friends. Oh, I'm really proud of that. I found out who my friends are, and I'm serving my country in a way that God found for me. I was the guy in the place, able to do it. And I was the last person that Mac Isaacs testified at one time. Why'd you give it to Giuliani? Because I watched him over the years, and the man has complete integrity. Thank you. Thank you. You recognize something that the scoundrels in the left-wing media do not, and even some of my friends forget because it's convenient. I'm doing this because I have no choice. They didn't give it to somebody else. I hope if they gave it to you, you would do the same thing to save our country, because you bury this and we are consigned to this for the rest of our existence. And who knows when we're going to stop the cycle of becoming a dictatorship, a corrupt dictatorship. We are that now. Tomorrow, we'll see more evidence. We'll see how far they're going to go in convicting this guy. And I'll tell you if I think they pull their punches. So far, well, look, they have another day. It's unfair to say. There's other testimony that goes along with this, that if I were trying this case, you'd damn well be sure it would be in, and it would bury him even in front of a sympathetic jury. Not taking care of those kids, I don't care. You got to be an animal not to get angry about that. What's the end of it? I'm a danger to your grandchildren, Joe. What did Joe do? Zilch, nothing. A year later, when I presented this to the head of the Delaware police, who had a legal obligation to visit once he saw that and the pornography pictures of the kid, once he saw that, he had an obligation to go there. He never did. So everything gets sacrificed to Joe's political career and to the objective of defeating Trump. How sick. How sick. And maybe we can crack through that now. Let's hope. Let's hope that the good Professor Turley, who tends to be right most of the time, let's hope he's wrong about this jury nullification. I mention it often because I'm afraid he may be right, but I'm not sure. There's powerful evidence here, even to the extent that they've shaded it. This is pretty powerful stuff, particularly the distinction you can make between a dangerous drug addict and a benign drug addict. This was a dangerous drug addict who drove automobiles while addicted, a drug addict who did it around minor children. That's a drug addict that belongs in jail as well as treatment. Another type of drug addict maybe just deserves treatment. I think ordinary good people will look at it that way. And when you think of all the people that Biden was responsible for being in jail way longer than they should for marijuana, and his son is abusing a drug that's far more potent with a great many more consequences for other people, you get an idea of what a phony piece of crap Biden is. Hunter has really ended up, I guess, in a marriage that sort of fits the Biden family because Melissa seems like she's a quintessential Biden. Yesterday, she just charged this guy, Garrett Ziegler, who has the Marco Polo blog or whatever, in which all he really does is he's sort of outlined all the things that are on the hard drive. Not all, but a good many of them. So you can find them for research purposes. She told him that he is a Nazi piece of shit. Very, very wide and facile vocabulary, huh? And a really classy lady, Melissa. You did a good job there, Joe. I was going to say you married down. Maybe not. Maybe even with that, you married up. I mean, it's hard for anybody in the Biden family to marry down. So where it goes tomorrow, we'll see. Do they pull the punches? Do they stop pulling punches? We'll see. So let's take a short break, and we'll be right back. And let's talk a bit about the border, because that made a lot of news. And there's a con job going on there, but I'm not even sure I have to outline it for you. I think you guys have that one figured out. But what the heck? And then we're going to talk vice president with my geniuses here.
We're having the biggest sale ever on overstock clearance and brand new products. For example, save 60% on our Goose Down comforters, the best comforters ever. They go perfectly with our MyPillow bed sheets and duvet covers. Save 25% on our brand new kitchen towels. They're made with the same technology as our famous My Towels. Our initial quantities are extremely low, so get them now before they go. Our seasonal flannel sheets are finally in. You save up to 50%, and they sell out fast every year, so order now. They're truly the best flannel sheets you'll ever sleep on. Or save up to 80% on all our clearance items. And this is where it gets even better. For a limited time, your entire order ships absolutely free. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use that promo code to get deep discounts on all MyPillow products. And for a limited time, your order ships absolutely free.
We were working on my microphone, and it's sinking. It's a sinking microphone. Not stinking, sinking. I don't. Did you see Biden last? Did you see Biden last night on TV, where he laid out this? I don't know how the guy. I guess because he's demented, he doesn't have the same reaction to these things. What he said last night is like a massive lie. He's going to control the border. Now he's going to control the border, and he's going to let more people in illegally than ever before in the history of the country, except when he was president. More than Trump, more than Obama, more than Bush, more than Clinton, more than Bush, more than Reagan. And he's trying to sell that to the American people as, I'm going to close the border with my executive order. Hardly said it that commandingly, by the way. I'm going to close the border with my executive order. Of course, who's the guy who opened the border? Ooh, who was that, guys? Who opened the border with his executive order?
Biden?
Yes, Joseph Robinette Biden opened it up with the 50 executive orders that he signed to destroy American sovereignty. Mm-hmm. Because that's the reason he did it. It's part of the communist plan to destroy the sovereignty of this country. Not unlike the burning of flags or the desecration of our heroes. And now, even if he would close the border now, it wouldn't do us any good unless he throws out the bums that he took in. We got 12 million plus of them. One of them in New York City, in my city, 19 years old, came in 10 months ago from Venezuela. He was part of the mass amnesty program that Biden did without telling us, probably getting ready for, in case he had to close the border, he was going to get as many in under the wire as possible. That mass amnesty thing basically entails dismissing their asylum case and then letting them stay in a completely uncertain status. They're not granted asylum. They're not granted legal status, but they're not thrown out. And I don't know how many of those there are, well in excess of 300,000. This thief and attempted murderer was one of them. He immediately either was a member of or joined, because he has the relevant markings, the tattoos, Trans-Aragua. Trans-Aragua is now become very, very famous. It might even be bigger in the U.S. than it was certainly richer in the U.S. than it was in Venezuela. And I don't know how much of Trans-Aragua is still back in Venezuela, which has become a relatively safe country, with Caracas becoming a very safe city because all of their criminals are in New York. And not only are there criminals in New York, Mike would be interested in this, their correction facilities, you should go work there. They're pretty much empty. And the nut houses are completely empty. Because he actually, Maduro followed the Castro sort of approach during Mariel, and he emptied out his nut houses first. He figured they were more of particularly the criminally insane, were more of a difficulty in controlling than the regular criminals. So he got rid of them first. And that's why we get all these mentally ill people on top of our own. And those in New York, of course, have the luxury of entertaining much more of them than anyone else, because our mayor invited them here. I know he likes to blame it on Abbott, but long before Abbott sent anybody here, he was announcing, as if advertising, come to New York, we're the best sanctuary city. We don't cooperate with the immigration service. We don't turn you in. We give you all the benefits plus more. You'll be able to have welfare. You'll be able to have COVID benefits. You'll be able to get a free education, including beyond K through 12. We're going to have a whole big jobs program for you. That one really went over well. You know, about 200,000 have come through New York. You know how many have taken advantage of his ridiculous jobs program? 5. Oh. No, it was big. It was 5.
Oh, big.
Yeah, big 5. Yeah, 5%. These people are not what they're painted to be. You know, give me your tired, you're poor. Give me your drug addicts. Give me your criminally insane. Give me your terrorists. Give me the people who sell fentanyl. Give me your people who want to bomb buildings. Give me your people who want to set up moped theft squads. Yeah, this is what this 19-year-old was part of. It's a big thing. And by the way, not just in New York. You might find this in your city, because do not think that they're just in New York. The Mexican cartels over the last 20 years have developed outposts in every major American city. I I'll get you a map. We'll go through this on a map, as I did on my podcast. Warned people about it 2 years ago, by the way. And since then, all they've done is increase it. But part of what's happening is, for their own purposes, the cartels that control the border are getting their people in. They're agents. So if they want to send somebody to Baltimore, or they want to send somebody to Seattle, or they want to send somebody to Chicago, and of course they're going to send people to New York because we give them the most, they have people there to take advantage of them if they're worthwhile money earners. Some of them they get money from straight up front. That's the end of it. They made a fortune with them. Some of them they utilize for good. Some of them they use for human trafficking, which I am told, but has seen as much of. I'm told it's much bigger than the drugs, both in scope and in money. And we have the distinction now of being the #1 child trafficking country in the world, the United States of America. Now, wouldn't that make sense if we just let you come in and we don't do anything? Remember, if 3.2 million people came in last year, who we vaguely vetted, the Chinese 4 questions, know very little about except their word for what they say, because they have no records. And the immigration service is completely tied up like that. How many people do you think a well-organized group of 5 or 6 different organized crime groups, cartels, how well do you think they can just sneak people over that we never see on that very wide border, which they know better than us? Many. So the Harvard and, wasn't Harvard, MIT and the University of Pennsylvania did the best study I've ever seen of this on how you calculate what the factors you use when you have a certain number of known illegals, how many unknowns? Now, there are the gotaways, don't get confused. The gotaways are the ones they see, they write something down about them, but that's all they have. No name, just a description. We tried to get them and we couldn't. Well, we've got about 1.3 million of those. So you put them on top of everybody else, okay? But then we have and they don't even talk to you about this. They hate to talk to you about this. We have the people we never see. Estimated by professors at MIT to be at least 50% of the people you do see. Well, if the people we did see last year were 3 million, unfortunately, that says about 1.5 million we never saw. And it makes sense that the more that come in that we do see, and we spend decreasing amounts of time on them because it's so crowded, the more our people are tied up, and the easier it is for the cartels to get people over because our people are engaged. And those are the spots you're going to save for the high value criminals, the ones that bring you big bucks, like the 20-year arrangement between Islamic extremist groups and the Sinaloa cartel. This isn't new, just much bigger now. So when a guy like the crooked FBI director yells and screams like a stuffed pig that we're going to have a terrorist attack and there are more terrorists here than ever before, he's just playing protect your ass, isn't he? Because he should have been doing this 3 years ago. I knew this was happening 3 years ago. Why didn't he stop it? Because he's a Biden flunky. That's why. And and the top of his agency is part of the Biden police. This is horrible what they've done. It's terrible. And now he's going to cure it by letting in. Let me show you the numbers here. First, I'm going to show you the comparison, if you can see that. I don't know if you can see that. Can they see that? Okay, so you'll see way down there at the bottom we'll go back to Obama. Obama, we probably have about 520,000, 510,000. That's the period of time that Obama's head of Homeland Security was saying when they were looking at 100,000 coming in, that would be a catastrophe. And when they got to 400,000 or 500,000, he was like apoplectic. We can't handle it. So as a result of that, Jay Johnson, who was at one point a friend, I hope he still is, and I do have respect for. You see that Jay got a little bit of a decline there in 16 to 17. And then in Obama's last year, there's a bit of an increase. By the way, amounts that now are nothing. I mean, so he was at like 510, he went down to 500, he went up to 520. The first year, I'm sorry, that was Trump. And then you see a big jump here for Trump between 18 and 19. Big jump, but nothing like Biden, right? And then you see that he got control of it. A lot of this had to do with the fentanyl offensive that he started, which Andrew Giuliani was part of. And we'll have him on some night to explain it to you. And they had a nice reduction. He backed down to a little lower than where Obama was. And then open borders takes over. He goes to the convention in the middle of the year of 2020, and he tells them to, what did he say, stage at the border or surge to the border. He says, surge to the border. And they did. And then, what's that? That's an invasion. These here, up until Trump, these are historic highs, lows of immigration in this range. When he got it up to here, he started setting records. And now he has all the records. And he wants to place the normal illegal immigration into the country where that blue line is, which is like 30 to 40 to 50% of how Obama and Trump were doing without his crap. So when we get back, we'll analyze that a little bit more. And also, you guys get ready for our vice president sweepstakes. Here we are, pretty much at the beginning of the process here at this pristine, I call it a laboratory. It's not like a factory, it's like a hospital. This is the beginning of the process for roasting. Deep grain, very good quality. Most people don't use this quality. We deal with small farmers because we like to know who we're dealing with. They give us the highest quality, all organic, non-GMO. You should know all Arabica beans, no Robusto, all Arabica. They're going to go into the roaster and it'll get roasted for about 20 minutes or so. Oh my goodness, look at these. My goodness. You're going to want to specially order these. This is what goes into Rudy's Coffee. Okay, before we get off this subject, I do want to show you one other, well, I don't have it, but I'm going to tell you what it is. Basically, it's a calculation of what his numbers will do to us. And what his numbers will do to us is something like 300,000 to 400,000 a year coming in through the CBP1 program. That's the con job of last year rather than this year. And that con job said that you apply for asylum status, and if you do, you can come in and then you can wait 5 years. So you get 5 years of illegal status that isn't illegal because we ignore it in the United States. And that was going to reduce the number of people who come in, and it was going to be kept very, very limited, which gives you an idea of what they're going to do with the 2,500. Are they really going to even enforce that? So that number gets you to about 400,000 illegals per year, which was basically Trump's last year and Obama's last year, without any of this. But then, at 2,500 a year, you could do as much as 800,000 or 900,000. And then you have the people they parole in. There are about 200,000 of those. Who knows if there isn't money that goes along with that, because these are important people. And the Bidens have done very little over the last 20 to 30 years in government in which they didn't make money. Who's to say they're not making money on this? Given their prior background as a prudent prosecutor, you'd have to begin your investigation with that hypothesis. But in any event, the number is 1.8 million, as determined by just about everybody who knows immigration. So here's what we're doing. The guy tells us we're closing the border. We're closing the border by letting in 1.8 million more illegals in a country that has 12 million recently admitted, we don't know who, immigrants, where we have to assume a large number of them are criminals and terrorists. Since we don't know who they are, we have to assume the worst if we're being what the Bidens are, which is protective of the United States. That means we got to change him, and it is imperative. And don't screw around, or you're not going to have a country. To give away a country's borders is to eventually give away the country. In particular, one like the United States that is built not on ethnicity, not on race, not on religion. It's built on a common core of beliefs. Well, people coming in from all over, I mean, who believe that when you die and kill infidels, you get 72 virgins. That's not a common core of beliefs. Like, we don't believe that, right? How many of these people believe in free speech? You know, they're like Biden. They don't believe in free speech. Maybe that's why he likes them, because they come from countries that have reduced free speech, although they should be very comfortable here because they're reduced even more. So Trump, I think it's still hard to say whether the net result of the conviction, the phony conviction by the crooked Bragg, is going to help or hurt. It may turn out to be a wash. I don't know. But here's the issue. Who's he going to pick for vice president? He apparently has sent out the vetting forms. And I remember those. I mean, it's a real pain in the neck to fill those out if you don't get selected, I'll tell you. I mean, they're like, well, I don't know if he's using the same ones, but I'm thinking of the ones that were used by Bush and that were used by Bush, really. And actually going back to Reagan, and they weren't as, I mean, they would, 20, 25 pages. I'm talking about when I was Associate Attorney General, which is Senate confirmed, I filled out about a 50-page report. It seemed to me I was describing all kinds of details of my life going back to grammar school. And I guess with a vice presidential candidate, my goodness, I mean, I got to, no matter what you do, you're going to miss something, right? They're going to come up with something that, you know, in grammar school, the guy, I don't know, he drove his bicycle on somebody's lawn, who was one of these sensitive, protective people. I have no idea. So let's start naming them. What list do we want to create? And then I want to know your top choices on that list. Okay? So who wants to help feeding me names here? Give me a couple. J.D. Vance. Now, no, we're doing it from our heads.
Not from our heads, not from what the report.
Oh, okay. So
Report.
No, what? There's some reports out tonight.
Yeah, tell me about them.
There are some reports tonight.
Contribute to the news, Ted.
Yeah. Apparently, we are down to a final 4. I was hearing 7 earlier, but now we're down.
How good are these?
4.
How good are these reports, Ted?
I mean, the reports are coming from. I mean, they must be coming from somewhere because they're almost all reporting it.
So you
right?
think? I mean, there's no doubt. Let's see if we have the right one. There's no doubt, and I would have thought it'd be a little later. You do some vetting through the public by putting the names out. You may even put out a couple of misleading ones to get you off the track. Right. So this is a list that comes out of where? An unknown source?
So that's the thing.
An unknown Trump source?
Yes. Yeah, so one source is giving out 4 names.
Who are they?
Other sources have named as many as 7.
Well, give us the 4.
The 4 are Doug Burgum. Well, go ahead and try to guess them, Mayor.
Doug Burgum, J.D. Vance, Marco
Rubio.
This is your guess or names you've seen?
Both.
Okay. The 4th one is
And
Tim Scott. Yeah,
Tim
those
Scott.
are the 4.
That's the one I saw yesterday.
Yeah, okay. So this is not.
I think that is.
But there's one person pushing this hard.
Who?
We don't know. An unnamed source.
Oh, okay. It sounds like it's come from inside.
Trump search, this is NBC News. Trump search, according to one source, is heavily concentrated on those 4. However, others who have been mentioned as prospective running mates in recent days include Stefanik.
Yeah, I saw her in a list that was in the Wall Street Journal, and it seemed to me it was a leaked list.
Yeah, Donalds and Carson.
I didn't know. I haven't seen our friend Ben recently. Last week he was the number 1 choice.
He's in this one here.
So we add Donalds and we add Carson and Stefanik to the list of 4.
That's right.
If we want to, any other name out there?
Of course, Kirsty Nome, but that name
No.
We fallen off.
I don't think so. I think there are too many.
She's in the report, so even today,
too many dog lovers.
It's keeping her name in contention, though.
I think also she's hurt by the Romney thing.
Yeah, I think.
But how much grief Romney took? How much grief Romney took for putting that dog on the top of his car?
The dog thing.
Okay, here's another report.
And then it turned out, at the time that it happened, it was one thing. Then it turned out he was such a weird bird. Maybe that was a good indication of how weird he is putting a dog on the top of his car.
Okay, so here's another report. Now, these are different outlets. I think different sources are giving different names. All the same names, but we're adding Tom Cotton.
Oh, Tom Cotton was in the first report that I saw. So I would give that a little weight.
So Tom Cotton's another name.
So, I mean, since you don't want to give it away, you're probably going to make it more inclusive than it really is. I'm going to guess this is not based on conversations with him, but it is based on how he did it last time a bit. He probably hasn't. I would say he certainly hasn't made a choice. He probably has maybe a leaning. Maybe if he was forced to make a choice right now, he knows who it would be. Except it may be different a month from now. You know what I'm saying?
I feel like Burgum right now.
He's a smart enough man and enough of an executive to know, don't make the decision until you have to. And also, this process will get you more information about them, particularly from the undisciplined. Now, if the Democrats have dynamite on any of them, they're not going to put it out now.
But the competition
They're going to hope. Well, if the Democrats have it, but not the competition, Democrats will hold it back.
But it's a good way to weed out all the bad stuff by getting the competitors to go after each other.
Exactly. So, so we want to go down. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
What names, Mayor, do you think? What names don't you see there that you think? I'm not asking to give anything based off conversations you've had.
Well, I think you know that there isn't one here. I don't think that I couldn't accept as a vice president.
List.
I will tell you a little. I will tell you a little bit of. I think JD is a little young.
And Donald.
And Donald and even my good friend Elise, although I love Elise. So if she got it, I think I'd be happy. I think Carson is the best. That's my number 1 would be Ben, just based on the enormity of the job of being president and how serious it is, and how you have to have a strong man, and don't mistake a bravado for strength.
Right.
Sometimes people with bravado are really cowards and weaklings, and sometimes they're great men. And sometimes people who seem weak are very strong. Ben is that. I've always liked Marco. Second person to support him when he ran for the Senate. I think he's a serious guy, a real patriot. I don't know much about Burgum, but I like what I see. But it's more like feelings than it is. I know a lot more about Carson and Rubio than I do about Burgum. But there's a kind of instinct about him. I like Elise. And I know she's young, but I have confidence in her. So it's a little bit of a hometown choice. So I would list it for me. Well, you guys tell me now. I've done a lot of talking. Cotton, I'm not sure about Cotton. Cotton
seems a little aggressive.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he's a good politician, but he's a little too aggressive, I think, for a vice president. A lot of people think he's a little too aggressive. Cotton. He's a good politician, but I think he's not a people person.
I'm surprised.
Right? Then, he's not he doesn't have people skills.
Anybody here missing that surprises you?
That's what I'm thinking of right now.
Somebody.
Well, Christy Nome, you say, is on the list, but we believe that she's been dogged. She's been dogged.
Somebody.
Very few women. We only one, right?
You're not just thinking Nikki Haley, right?
Yeah, I think Nikki.
Really?
What do you think?
Nah, I don't think so.
People say the following, but I'm on the other side of it.
He
But
did say publicly he'll find a place for her in his.
Yeah, and of course it has been known that presidents have selected people they said they never would select when it became the best choice, and no one ever thought that Reagan would select Bush because Bush had accused him of voodoo economics and sort of made fun of his intellect. And Reagan looked at the field and said, "Bush is the best guy. I'm taking him." And it turned out to be the elder Bush turned out to be an excellent vice president.
I feel like Nikki Haley forcefully had to endorse Donald Trump. Like, she kind of forced herself to endorse him, so I don't think he's going to make her the vice president. I don't think her endorsement was sincere.
Yeah, I mean, winning is important, but he's enough ahead, so he's also got to think about loyalty.
Right.
And
he's not loyal.
You don't want to lock yourself up with a vice president who's going to run out on you. And
It's like Kamala, right? She called Joe Biden a racist, to this and that, and then she ended up being his vice president.
Yeah, but she's loyal. She's been loyal, but she's too stupid not to be.
Before she wasn't. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So it's kind of similar.
Kamala, I think, was very manageable. Kamala, remember, was Soros's choice and Obama's choice.
Right.
So I think they pushed her on Dopey. And I actually think they're surprised that she's that stupid.
Yes. Yeah.
Because they don't want to be at this point. I would, if you could get a private conversation with them, I think they'd admit they made a mistake because they locked themselves into Biden because of her.
Yeah. And Hillary Clinton made a massive mistake in 2016 with Tim Kaine. I mean, I think they were smarter in 2020 with Kamala Harris just on paper because she was going to help get some more vote in Detroit.
Well, yeah. And he needed the black vote.
Yeah, in key states.
As you can see now, Biden is not strong with the black vote. And it may be because he's lied about so many of the black issues so much that they're aware of it. I mean, there's stuff that he was very active in the civil rights movement. Wasn't active at all in the civil rights movement.
Oh, my God.
He got arrested. He never got arrested. He went to a black college. He never went to a black college.
He stood with a black man on Memorial Day, he said. That's what he said.
A Memorial Day?
This is Memorial Day, the black.
He stood with a black man. Well, what does that mean? He stood with a black man.
Nobody knows. I stood here with a black.
I mean, many Memorial Days I've stood with black men. They were all around me. I mean, and with white men.
But if we take 2016
in New York, it's impossible on Memorial Day not to stand with black men.
If in 2016, so Mike Pence, we look at that pick. Looking back at it strictly,
Mike Pence until the last day was a great choice.
Yeah, and if you look at 16, I mean, we won, so obviously it was a good choice to. He probably helped a little bit with the evangelical.
Mike Pence was a solidifying choice
for the evangelical.
He was a calm you down, but he was also a calm you down choice. Trump was unknown. Even the people who loved him always had a worry. Well, he's unknown. He took a guy that said experience, sort of like Cheney and Bush. Bush came in. Bush was a governor, not a federal guy. And Bush, they did a pretty good job of creating issues about his intellect and intelligence. So he picked probably the most qualified guy in government to be his vice president, Cheney. And he wasn't Darth Vader then.
Well, yeah.
I mean, he was not a moderate, but a relatively bipartisan legislator. He was a superior Secretary of Defense.
Is it true? I agree. Is it true that Bush had originally put Dick Cheney in charge of the search committee to find a vice presidential?
Yes,
and then he. I love that. I love that. And
I was in charge of the search committee when I was Associate Attorney General for U.S. Attorney in the Southern District of New York, and I recommended myself.
Oh, really? Is that true? See, I can appreciate that. I didn't know that. I love that. See, that's just another.
That's what made me. I had thought I wouldn't be able to do that job anymore because I was Associate Attorney General, and then it became open, and I'm thinking about people. I said nobody could do this job better than me.
I love that. That is my. I
think that's what happened with Cheney. I mean, Cheney was a.
That's great.
Forget what happened later. Whatever you think of what happened later, just from a purely political point of view, did Cheney help?
Yeah.
Cheney helped the choice, first of all, by not hurting, and secondly, by giving it more maturity. Gore helped Clinton, even though a lot of people would say, well, Clinton should have gotten an older guy, more experienced. It was a little bit of a strange choice. They doubled down on the same thing. Younger Democrat, new generation Democrat, and believe it or not, at that time, moderate Democrat. Until Hillary came in, took over, and wanted to do socialized medicine. And then they lost to Congress, and basically Dick Morris kicked her out. And they became Republicans for 2 years. And then she kicked Dick Morris out. So come on, you guys are being very cagey. I put up a couple of people here. I put up Ben Carson that I would like, Elise Stefanik that I would like, Rubio that I would like, and Burgum that I'm intrigued with.
Okay, fine. I'll go. Ben Carson, I'm with you on Ben Carson.
You and I have always, from the very beginning, been
Michigan too plays a key role in that. Ben Carson's from Detroit.
Well, it doesn't do a damn thing for me that he's from Michigan. Okay?
No, it does for me.
Well,
it's a key state, Mayor. It could come down.
I see what you're saying. He can help. That's
the only thing I care about. Yeah, I don't care that he's from Michigan. Only that he's got this rags to riches. It's the ultimate swing state, and actually, it's a swing state that we're actually probably losing as of right now, or at least it's tighter than it should be. And
I'll check on that.
Ben Carson grew up in a
we're in
a black household.
Honestly, we're in the zone of tide. In Michigan.
Okay, so tied, but still, right? It's a key state.
But is he associated enough with Michigan?
Well, we have to make it happen, right?
I don't see him as a local candidate kind of guy.
He's not. You're right. He's not. But if we can tell that story,
a guy who's been a mayor or a governor,
but if you can. No, I agree with you. But if you can go into the Detroit community and Ben Carson, there's a school, I believe. I'll have to double check that. There may be a school that was named after him. I think they actually changed
something
it.
more obvious.
6% ahead in Michigan right now.
Yeah, is that the average? Okay. So, but 1.6% is the margin of error.
Yeah.
But you got to consider that's pretty damn good after having been convicted of a felony, huh? 34 felonies.
Yeah.
And I'll say another one, Doug Burgum. And I know you said intrigued. I like it. I think Doug Burgum, businessman, doesn't add or take anything away. People know Trump, and he really comes off as kind of like a sensible Midwestern.
You start off with not taking anything.
Yeah.
You are a successful vice presidential candidate if you fulfill the Hippocratic Oath and you do no harm.
Yeah, I love that.
If you could add, that's a plus, and 1 out of 5 does that. Here's where I think Carson might the black vote,
right,
where he's got momentum.
Yeah,
and that's not just one state. That helps even in Michigan, even in these states that are very close.
Yes, the black vote in the states that are close.
In
Pennsylvania,
Michigan, Wisconsin,
Georgia.
How about Wisconsin?
Wisconsin, Milwaukee, where our convention is. Milwaukee, Georgia,
of course. Every one of the states in play has a significant, not not commanding black vote, but significant black vote. And
Yeah.
he
As big as any state.
and if that vote switches or is depressed, he's going to lose. Biden's going to lose.
Yeah.
And already there seems to be momentum in that direction. You see about a net 30-point swing from 20. You got him down about, meaning Biden down by about 16, 17. You have Trump up by about 10 or 12.
Yeah. Clinton, 16, right? Picking Tim Kaine, a white guy from Virginia. That must have, that didn't help her in Michigan.
So Tim Scott fills that too, and Byron Donalds, right?
Yeah.
Uh,
Who has more political experience is the truth between Tim Scott and Ben Carson.
well, Ben has more political experience, but you want a strange one? And maybe I'm saying something I shouldn't say. I think Tim and Byron probably connect more as blacks than Ben does. Because Ben is older and he fits into that older generation of blacks. And, you know, they're going to go after him as being, he's really a white guy.
To counter that, Ben's the one of the three that hasn't been a partisan as much. I know he was appointed by Trump, but you could make the other argument that actually Byron Donalds and Tim Scott, as partisan Republicans, may have a tougher time.
And they have actually been directly accused completely unfairly of being Uncle Toms.
Yeah, and you know, all three of them will be by the racist left.
Who's the best candidate of the three?
Ben Carson.
I don't think so. I mean,
Tim Scott.
political skills.
I think Tim Scott.
Political skills.
Byron Donalds.
Yeah, I think Byron is
Think
even.
so?
Byron Donalds, but yeah.
But he's also the guy with the
Well,
least
he actually messed
Political,
up today.
raw political skills, Ben.
tough as hell.
He messed up. He messed up today, Mayor. He said,
Who?
Byron Donalds. He said that black people were better under the Jim Crow days.
They what?
They were better off under the Jim Crow days. He said.
Now, what we got to get context.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure he meant.
Yeah.
You know, there's a way
I don't
in
know
which
what-
you could
I
make
don't-
that argument.
Remember that flop?
Well, wait a second. I can see what he might have meant by that, in the sense that at least they knew where they were. Now the wool is pulled over their eyes, where they've got an oppressor known as the crooked Democrat Party in the major cities.
I have a feeling it's a nuanced point, and then of course, Hakeem Jeffries.
So
I
stuck
don't know
by that.
exactly what he meant, but the Democrats have been ripping him all day, so he's in a little hot water.
You have to. Because they're afraid of someone like that, right? Of a Byron Donalds.
I just think Ben. You know, Ben is the kind. Tim and Byron are still young. They got a lot to achieve, and I think they're going to be great. But Ben has the kind of career you're proud of already.
Bingo.
It's like, if I'm a black person
Yes.
and I'm looking for a role model,
Yes, that's exactly right.
if I'm looking for a role model, don't I pick a brain surgeon for children?
That's right.
The chief of brain surgery at Johns Hopkins.
And I know him really well personally, and it's all legitimate. He is the nicest, most decent man. And my goodness, do we need an honest man in the White House?
Yeah. And I also want to know,
That's a good.
did Doug Burgum talk crap about Trump? I want to know that when he was running. No,
No, he
didn't
was
say
pretty-
anything, right?
Not bad. I don't remember him doing anything bad.
I don't know if he did. That's all. I was going to make
Yeah,
sure.
I don't care about, I care about that when we win. And
No, by the way,
I don't win whatever it takes.
You know,
right?
if it was really bad, we'd know it.
yeah.
Yeah, that's
And that would come into play for, you're right, I guess for VP and
Yeah,
for
yeah.
loyalty
No, I'm saying for
after
VP.
you win.
Yeah,
But,
that's all. Yeah.
But for now, let's play nice with Nikki and everybody because we have to win. Even Nikki Haley, I don't trust her, but she has this group of voters that like her and respect her, and we don't want to lose them. We don't have to court them, but we have to play nice. Election is a game of addition, not subtraction.
Well,
And then
the
we can do
guy,
games
the
that we
guy,
can do
the guy on this list that already meets the category historic American is Ben Carson.
I agree.
He adds something to the luster of Donald Trump. Vance is too young. Burgum is too not well known.
Right.
Donald, for sure, to some extent, Scott, a little bit more. Elise, wonderful, but still making her career. Cotton, the same thing. Nikki Haley probably hurts him, I think. But I could accept any of them but Nikki Haley. I'd have a real tough time with Nikki Haley.
I would.
And I really would, it would worry me because I would think, okay, when's she putting the knife in the back?
Yeah, bingo.
His supporters would agree. His supporters would agree with you too.
Selected to a big position by Trump and then goes out and runs against him.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. That you fail the loyalty test. I don't care how you explain it.
You know who's really against her is Andrew.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Andrew was really upset with her from the day she left. He felt that she left at a critical point right before the midterm elections, left him holding the bag, and should have remained for 2 or 3 more months, not to
Is that
create
when she
the issue.
left?
Yeah.
She left before the 2018 midterms?
Yes.
Before the 20 that's even more makes her more of a
Yeah,
coward.
yeah, and a lot of people in the White House were. I think Steve would tell. I mean, Bannon would tell you the same thing.
What a coward. That's a and she did that because she didn't want to be on the hook for
Yeah.
but we knew it was going to be a bad cycle.
Right.
Oh,
And I don't think I'll ever get over that. What's the cause of the Civil War is a difficult question. I don't think I'd ever get over that.
and she even said,
What do you think the cause of the Civil War was?
then she,
Slavery?
well, come with the easy before she said, before she indicated how tough of a question that was.
Oh wow, you're really gonna start with the hard questions.
Yeah, and it was like
It's going to really build up a great interest in learning history in our home state, which lists the main cause on a document.
But that tells you that's what she thinks of Republican primary voters. That's what I told you, right? I think she knows the truth, but she thinks that it would offend the Republican primary voters because she has this idea of Republican primary voters as being like.
So if he were to choose right now, now I don't want who you think should be. I want who do you think he would pick right now? Who do you think he's leaning?
All right, so you know him. You know how he thinks much better than we do. I'm gonna say Burgum. I just see him. Today, based off what I'm seeing, what I'm hearing, Burgum or Ben Carson. I'm gonna still stick with 2. Because I don't see politically. I can't talk myself out of it. And knowing President Trump's, knowing that how smart he is, right, and how much he gets politics at like a very raw level, like you do, Mayor. And I'd like to think I do. Whether I do or not, I don't know.
Wasn't Trump?
That's my Mike. What do you think?
I'm thinking he's picking Ben Carson.
Mike.
Smart. He's smart. If you want to win, you want to appeal to the minority vote.
Yeah.
You want to smart. Not only is he minority, Ben Carson, he's a smart man.
So I mean, he in a way, Tim Scott, Donald, and Carson are all black. So you got to pick one of them if you want to go with a black. And he's the best. He brings the most to it.
Right.
With his career.
It's up at age, yeah.
Right.
If anything else, age.
And in a way, if you compare him to Vance, he's so much more experienced than Vance.
Mm-hmm.
The only guy that would be at his experience level, to some extent, is Rubio, who brings a lot in terms of foreign policy and also the Hispanic community.
Mm-hmm.
But I think somehow I shouldn't say this because I could be wrong. I think he's got a much bigger head start with the Hispanic community than the black. Whereas with the black community, I think with the Hispanic community, he's done the job of getting a lot of them away from the Democrats and to him. With the black community, he's gotten them away from the Democrats, but they haven't all made the move to him yet.
I agree with that.
And that's what Carson could do.
Well, judging from that Bronx rally, it was mostly Hispanic when he came here. So,
Yeah, but I think they're on the way to support.
Yeah,
they're one of my great political teachers, either David Garth or Roger Ailes. I don't remember who. I do think this was Garth. Said that the way you turn a vote, which we had to do because the guy no, this was actually Roger, because the guy who ran before me as a Republican got 8% of the vote. So I was going to have to get people to vote outside of their pattern. 8%. Yeah. So the way you get the vote is you never take the vote usually away from somebody to you. You get them away from that person first, and they drop into the undecided category. And he said, if you see, let's say you see Biden and you see 10% drop into the undecided, you're probably going to get 5% of that, and 5% won't vote.
I love how he makes that.
And but they first go into this, and that's how I became a Republican. I stopped being a Democrat. I wanted to be a Republican, but I had the prejudice that they were bad to the poor people. So I became an independent, and then 4 years later, I became a Republican.
You were a McGovern Democrat.
And
Not to out you, but that's public.
Yeah, but that
I
was
read that.
I was never a McGovern Democrat. I
You
voted.
voted for McGovern.
I never
You were
liked
not a
him.
McGovern Democrat.
No, I would have preferred
You were
somebody
a
else.
Kennedy Democrat.
I was. And
Like
I
my dad.
I would have preferred someone else, and I reluctantly voted for him. And when I did, I made a vote like I criticize now. I made a Pavlovian vote. It was not an intellectual vote. It didn't reflect my values. It didn't reflect me. At the time, I thought the Democratic Party was soft on communism. I thought I already had seen that the Great Society was a terrible mistake. It was going to lead to dependency. I made the vote, and within, I think, before the nighttime,
This is 72?
before the nighttime when Nixon got
68,
elected.
72.
Yeah, I'm saying to myself, what the hell did I vote for that guy for? And that led me to leave the party and spend a couple of years as an independent and then become a Republican.
Then Ford appointed you, or somebody.
Oh, no, Ford
appointed you.
No, Ford didn't. That was not a presidential appointment. Attorney General.
Judge Tyler.
The Attorney General appointed me.
Meese?
No. Well, actually, Judge Tyler appointed me.
Tyler,
He was the deputy.
Judge Tyler.
He was the deputy attorney general.
Yes.
And he appointed me as his chief of staff.
Yep.
That's not a presidential appointment. 4 years later.
And now you're a Republican at this point.
Yeah. Then I was a Republican for
Reagan.
Right. And I supported Reagan.
And that was a presidential appointment.
Reagan was.
You knew what was
I voted for my first Republican presidential vote was Ford. And then since then, I voted for every Republican.
And Ford was our nominee in 76.
Yeah.
Even though Reagan for a while challenged him.
Right. And then I voted for Reagan twice. And then
there was some talk of Ford being Reagan's running mate in 80, but that never, I don't know how real that ever was, but.
It ended up with Ford arguably making some kind of unreasonable demands.
Is that true?
Yeah. And Reagan saying, it's not going to be a shared presidency.
That would have been tough. I don't think Reagan was actually considering it, or how real was it?
I think he was, yeah.
If they thought it would help.
Because at the time, his first election was something of a landslide. I mean, it was 8-9 points. It was not it was a much bigger win. It was a much bigger win than, and I'm talking about popular vote. And the second time he won every state but one.
Jimmy Carter, obviously.
Yeah, he beat him by about 8-9%.
Then
but no one knew at the time that it would be. I mean, at the time of the convention, he was still the underdog.
Okay.
I mean,
I wish conventions were still as big of a deal as they were.
Underdog. And did I know he was going to win by then? No, I didn't know he was going to win until I went to a bar mitzvah. Mark Mukasey's bar mitzvah. I was sitting at a table with all Jewish voters, some of them friends of mine, some of them friends of Judge Mukasey, all New York Upper East Side Jewish people, very, very, all Democrats, not necessarily, Pavlovian liberal Democrats, thoughtful Democrats.
Yeah.
And all I'm listening to is what a bad President Carter is. And not just Israel. I mean, they're going over stagflation and how weak he is. The hostages played a big role in it.
Yeah.
The fact that the hostage, that he had already had that failed mission where the helicopter blew up in the desert or whatever. He had already gotten hit for saying the country, we have to scale down our expectations. We never be great again, all this stuff. And they're reciting it all as if they're Republicans. So you didn't have cell phones then, but I wanted to get that information to Jay right away, just because I was excited about it. And Jay was Jewish, but from Pittsburgh, and very involved in politics in Pennsylvania. I said, Jay, there's a chance we could win New York. He said, you're crazy. I said, no, I'm here at a bar mitzvah, and this table, it's 10 people at this table. And I'd say no one here is voting for Carter. And half of them are going to vote for Reagan already. And I bet the other half by the end vote for Reagan. He said, yeah, well, go back and ask him. He gave me some questions to ask him. I used him like as a focus group. Yeah. And of course, he won New York. Reagan was the last R to win New York.
That would have been 1984.
No, this is 80.
He didn't, but he won New York in 84 too, right?
Yes.
So the last Republican to win New York was Reagan.
Yes. Bush lost it fairly close in 88.
And if you were on the ticket, if you were the nominee in 2008, New York would have gone red that year too. And look, and the more I read about that race, the more I'm convinced you're the only Republican that could have beaten Obama.
I don't think so, but I don't think anybody could have beaten Obama.
I don't. So I agree
Because of
that it would have been tough.
and I'm sufficiently realistic and not egotistical enough to. I think even if you want to say that McCain wasn't a good candidate, or even if Trump had run, I think the recession they made into a depression. I mean, that was the first thing they made hystericalized, if that's a word. They took what was a serious recession and started saying things like it's worse than the Depression. We're never going to come out of it. Everybody's going to be poor forever. Sort of like what they did with January 6th. You know, it's worse than Pearl Harbor. It's worse than the Civil War. It's worse than the Revolutionary War.
Yeah.
January 6th?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
They made up people dead. They had a state funeral for a guy that didn't die.
AOC almost got raped when she was 2 miles away. Yes, she said that.
Oh yeah, the members were like cowering in the.
Yeah.
I remember that. The members were like afraid of these real estate agents from Fort Worth, Texas.
Yes.
That's what. Anyway,
Yes.
but you're right, Mayor. That very similar.
No, we're going way over, but we're having a great time.
Yeah, we got to do this more. Where we.
But now that the campaign is coming around, we're going to get together a special little group, and we're going to set us up. We're going to have a date so people can count on it, and we're going to meet every week, and we're going to talk about. I think next week we'll put down
Campaign roundtable.
Next week we're gonna make for ourselves 4 or 5 vice presidential candidates, and we're gonna start rating them.
I like that.
Okay, and even if we're traveling, we'll do it over the telephone. Okay.
And I think everyone should have to pick someone and kind of argue that person's case.
We all pick the same one. I mean,
Well, then we can't do that. Yeah.
I want honest choices.
Yeah, and we're all.
And I think right now,
Mike on the Ben Carson train.
I think we
I'm Tim Scott of Ben Carson. I'm 50-50. Yeah.
no. Could we go for number 2? Who would you make number 2 to Carson?
Tim Scott.
Tim Scott. Burgum.
Yeah.
Mike doesn't trust Burgum. He's
I
from the
don't trust
Midwest.
Burgum yet.
He doesn't trust anyone from North Dakota.
He's a no name.
Mike doesn't even believe North Dakota is a real place.
Yeah. What the hell goes on in North Dakota?
He doesn't even know where that.
Is he North Dakota? Oh yeah. Nome is.
Oh yeah, South Dakota. We don't.
He doesn't have any dog problems.
Yeah. His neighbor. He's got to explain about his crazy
They
neighbor.
kill dogs in
Stop.
South Dakota, allegedly.
She's done enough. Oh.
Is Christy Nome related to anyone in China?
Yeah. What are you thinking, Mayor number 2? And again, this is all just us talking, and we're not giving anything away.
I focus on. Believe it or not, I mean, it doesn't help because I see 4 that he could. I see Burgum.
Yep.
I see Rubio.
Yep.
Believe it or not, I see Stefanik.
Yep.
Woman, tough. He respects her a lot.
She's really good. Yeah, she respects you, and she's always saying nice things, and you got a great.
That's not the reason, but
Yeah.
I don't ultimately see Tom Cotton, and I don't see J.D. Vance.
See Tom Cotton at all.
Well,
Person.
the only reason J.D. Vance, I see his name a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think it makes sense. I think he's from a state we already have, and he's a young, inexperienced candidate. I don't see what he brings that Trump doesn't already have.
Exactly.
And he was also an anti-Trumper.
Way back.
Yeah.
That
That's
true.
true for loyalty, but not for the campaign. Not for the campaign.
I think in fairness to him, he's too young. And I think Elise is the same thing, but there is an argument for a woman, and she could overperform. I mean, she's really good.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. She's proven herself to be good. I mean, she took down the president of Harvard. Well, now after seeing the president of Harvard, that wasn't exactly a tough thing to do. But
who do you think he would go with? Tim Scott and Byron Donald are they're both young black candidates. Scott a little more experienced, a little higher position, a senator instead of a congressman. Maybe a better campaigner.
Donald's. Than Tim Scott, yes.
Yeah, maybe a better campaigner than Tim.
Yeah.
But Tim has a little more resume.
Yeah.
Who do you think if he decided he wanted a young black candidate instead of Ben, who do you think you'd pick between Scott and Donald?
I would think he'd pick Tim Scott because when Tim Scott was running against him, he never he was still very loyal to Trump when they were debating and stuff, and you know.
Who would he take? I mean, look, you know his mindset even better than I. I'm saying Donald's.
I think Tim Scott because he has more experience. He's looking for experience.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't
I
have a
like
feel.
Tim Scott. I don't know. So I
He
don't want
likes
to come.
both.
Yeah.
I think he's looking for experience.
Before he ran against him,
I don't.
he would always have nice things to say about Tim.
I don't think he ever said anything.
I've negative about Tim,
I've
but
never talked to him about Burgum and Vance, so there's no inside information. I do know that whatever disagreements there were with Marco, they're over.
Right.
He really thinks Marco is a hell of a good senator. So you start off with that in his head. And he always liked Tim a lot. He's enormously impressed with Elise. Byron, yes. He said very nice things about Byron and Ben Carson. Never heard him on Tom Cotton.
I just think Ben Carson being a doctor. Look, I have a lot of respect for certain politicians, right? You're one of the most successful politicians in America, but the general public, I think, look at neurosurgeon, brain surgeon, a little bit different than politician.
Yeah,
that's not to take away from being a U.S. senator or being a congressman, right? That's a big deal. It's something to be. But I think the public looks at it'll be easier to sell the success story, which is also genuine of Ben Carson than, oh gee, look. Tim Scott, great guy. He became a U.S. senator. He's a politician.
We got any reaction from the board?
Yeah, so comment below. We want to hear from you before we sign off here. And we've put the comments
out
on
Twitter. So what we're going to do is when we do this, we're going to try to make it easy for them to get their comments in, and we're going to get our telephone system. We got to work on getting our telephone system number one, Mike.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Rob's going to help us with it.
But what I really think we should get is somebody to answer the phone for us. Yeah. The service or something.
So comment below. Who should the president select as his vice presidential running mate? We're going to put some comments on the screen before we sign off.
Maybe these guys. Maybe we could have them overnight on X. Take a little
poll. We can make a poll. We've already got
the
poll.
Yeah, we'll see what they think.
Yeah.
Well, online we've heard a lot. We've heard a lot of Ben Carson. Ben Carson. Vivek Ramaswamy, there's one that we didn't name tonight.
I just don't think it's going to be Vivek. I think that was a straight thing where they both said he's not in it because he didn't want the speculation. So I don't think he would do that because he's sort of taken him out of the vetting process.
Oh, I'm seeing Tulsi Gabbard's name.
Tulsi Gabbard. Tucker Carlson's getting some love.
No.
Ben Carson's getting a lot of love. Isn't that interesting? I think we're onto something with that. But again, that might be our audience, and we've been talking about Ben Carson for going on almost 2 years.
You should not.
It is a no-brainer to me. Ben Carson. The more we talk about it, the more I'm like.
But I just put him up against the two of them. Now Tucker is a very smart guy, but he has no experience in politics. Right. He has no experience, particularly in management politics. He's not a mayor or a governor. Right. Doesn't have any experience in business like Burgum, which is translatable to. And he doesn't have the status of a Ben Carson. He's a very smart partisan. Tulsi Gabbard, very interesting choice, except for the fact that Republican-Democrat thing never works. It never works. She'd have to be a Republican. When I say it never works, it could reflect my not being willing to accept that politics has changed and not noting that. So I think I'm going to put Tulsi on the list so we think about her a little. I really like her. Yeah. And I think she may also be a little bit more of an interventionist than he would like. I am.
I like that.
I mean, I'm a lot more of an interventionist than he is.
I would say Tulsi is getting some love. I would say Ben Carson's getting the most love. That might be a little bit of a biased chat because
I know we've been
pushing him for a long time. But it could just be we do have the brightest and most smartest audience on the internet.
So and the fastest 2 hours.
And this is the fastest 2 hours. Well, that's the thing is we're going so fast that we got to fill 2 hours here. Rudy would make a great vice president. I think you've got some people that agree here on set, and
I would be better off, honestly, straightening out a couple of the agencies for him.
A couple? How about the whole thing?
Well, that's what I wanted to be the roving
And he needs that because he's president. He doesn't have,
In 2020, I wanted to be the roving hitman. I wanted to go around and go from agency to agency and get rid of all the bums.
and you'd be doing the country a
Get rid
service.
of the deep
And that
state.
wouldn't be for Trump. You'd be doing the country
Yeah,
a
get rid
service.
of the deep state bums.
The deep state.
We'd have gotten rid of that Chiramello, who turned out to be that guy'd have been gone a minute when I found out he worked for Biden. We would never have had that lying whistleblower. Well,
Now everyone's got the mayor.
so now everybody's got the vice presidential sweepstakes. Maybe we'll discuss it tomorrow night. Definitely, it's kind of a good discussion for a Friday. I like it on a Friday at the end of a week. But we'll do a little tomorrow night so we get in shape for it. Yeah, but we can do it. We'll do it.
Do it when you're there.
Maybe we'll grab somebody from Michigan and make them part of the.
You know what? Let's see if we can't get. We've got a lot of good friends there.
Who the heck's running? Who's running it?
We got Mike Rogers, Trump endorsed candidate.
I like Mike.
Do you know Mike?
Sure, I did. I worked with him. Way back.
Well, I'm close enough to the team.
Let's see if we can get him
We
on.
can get him on, and that would be
Maybe.
Friday night in Michigan. And we'll reach out to P. Hoekstra, who I talked to the other night, the state party chair.
Pete Hoekstra.
He sends his regards.
Let's see if we can get him on.
And then, of course, a lot of the guests on what we're going to, and we'll talk more about that tomorrow. And you can just stay tuned to the mayor's social media. Rooting for AG. Wow, you're getting a lot of love here. Might be a biased chat.
If I became AG, a lot of people might not make it up the next morning. Can you imagine a few of these people waking up in the mornings?
Hearing that news? Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Oh, boy.
They're gonna have a heart attack, right?
Not only that, you're
They'll be
talking
sweating.
about Ben Carson. Not only that, I know how to do it a lot better than all these jerkos. This is something I know how to do. Okay. Well, thank you very, very much. We really appreciate you sticking with us. And Ted is collecting all of these. And we'll give you a little report back tomorrow on that. And we'll see you at 3:00 tomorrow on the Rudy Giuliani show. And then we'll see you tomorrow night on America's Mayor Live. And we'll...
Thursday tomorrow.
we got plenty to discuss.
It's already Thursday tomorrow. Wow. Where's the week going?
Pray for the people of Israel. Pray for the people of the United States. Pray for the people of Ukraine who are getting the short end there with their government too. And of course, God bless America. Bear the principle of common sense and rational discussion to the issues of our day. America was created at a time of great turmoil, tremendous disagreements, anger, hatred. There was a book written in 1776 that guided much of the discipline of thinking that brought to us the discovery of our freedoms, of our God-given freedoms. It was Thomas Paine's Common Sense, written in 1776, one of the first American bestsellers, in which Thomas Paine explained, by rational principles, the reason why these small colonies felt the necessity to separate from the Kingdom of Great Britain and the King of England. He explained their inherent desire for liberty, for freedom, freedom of religion, freedom of speech, the ability to select the people who govern them. And he explained it in ways that were understandable to all the people, not just the elite. Because the desire for freedom is universal. The desire for freedom in mind, and it is part of the human soul. This is exactly the time we should consult our history. Look at what we've done in the past and see if we can't use it to help us now. We understand that our founders created the greatest country in the history of the world, the greatest democracy, the freest country, a country that has taken more people out of poverty than any country ever. All of us are so fortunate to be Americans. But a great deal of the reason for America's constant ability to self-improve is because we're able to reason, we're able to talk, we're able to analyze,